Hey crew, it is Wednesday the 17th of January, and I meant to take a video before we left. We're on the road officially. I think we're just 30 minutes out of Pendleton. Lunch round 2. Now that we discovered that you didn't have any butter, but we were able to drive to Mount Vernon. We're just outside Mount Vernon, Oregon. Sarah's going all out here with her salad with chicken and bacon. So we were heading down to the San Diego area, and we drove through Central Oregon and then spent the night at this rest area in Northern California before heading on down to Yosemite for our next night. And we crossed the Sierras, which you're seeing here, and just had a beautiful drive. We actually took 2-lane roads almost the whole way. Went through Reno, and we're on a 4-lane highway before we ended up in Yosemite. And I'd never been to Yosemite, but it was all that it was cracked up to be. And not only that, because it was the off-season, there were very few people there. So this was the first evening coming into Yosemite here. When we got there, we went for a little walk and just went over to the visitor center. We stayed at Upper Pines Campground, which was beautiful and pretty quiet. It was just really beautiful, and there were so few people, like I said. So the next morning, I got up fairly late, slept in, and I decided I was going to go for a hike up to Nevada Falls, which the map said was just under 4 miles, but then it turned out that parts of the trail were closed, and so it ended up being more like a little over 5 miles, I think, from the campground. At the base of the trail, I met this young man, 23 years old, and he said he was going up and asked if he could go with me, and we started hiking up. And on the way up, we only saw 2 other people. We passed a woman who was going up, and then a guy who was coming down. And then the further we got up, we got into the snow, and it got pretty slippery and a little treacherous. I had my trekking poles, and he didn't. His name was Nick, and it was interesting actually. So he had left his home in Kansas City and hitchhiked out to Yosemite and was kind of living out of his backpack. So really interesting guy to talk to. So when we got to the top, which we're not there yet, you'll see, and it was crazy. Actually, you see there's only one set of footprints on that bridge in the snow. The guy coming down was the only person who'd been up here before us. And actually, he didn't even go all the way to the top. I think he came from a different direction. So we went up to the top of that. That's Nevada Falls. And so it was just amazing. We're walking through snow, and here you see this is at the top, and there had been nobody there. There's fresh snow from the night before. And looking down the valley, the mist was just gorgeous. And so Nick actually took a drink from the stream, which you'll see here in a video in a minute. And then the mist started coming in, actually. So I'm just going to let this run for a minute and let you enjoy the scenery. I just took a video earlier, and that's the huge rock mountain. The fog just rolled in. You can't see anything. It's amazing. Glad we got up before it. So yeah, the fog had just come in, and we started walking down, and we ran into the woman who had been coming up. And turns out she's a 60-year-old woman, was up by herself, and she didn't have trekking poles or anything. And with the fog coming in, I was really worried to leave her by herself. So we ended up waiting for her and hiking down with her, and had a really great conversation with her as well. This was one of the lower falls. I can't remember what it's called. And it's actually funny, we would have missed that if we hadn't met up with her, because we missed the overlook on the way up. So after we got back down, we had Nick for lunch at our camper van, and then Sarah and Taryn and I went to look at Bridal Veil Falls, which you see here, and then we went to see Yosemite Falls, Lower Yosemite Falls, which you'll see in a little bit. So we ended up walking around it, and the views are just obviously amazing no matter where you are. That's Yosemite Falls up in the background there. And this is the lower part of those falls. So I ended up actually walking about 13 miles this day and got at least 2,000 feet elevation gain. So it was a good hard workout, and I just really enjoyed it. And as you can see, just not a lot of people. There were a lot of people actually when we came down, got to the lower falls. We started running into more people. So our next morning, we were supposed to take off early, and we decided to postpone a little bit. And I took a little hike up to Mirror Lake, and these little video clips are from that hike. And once again, this was a fairly easy hike. It was about 1.5 miles each way, and from our campground. And obviously it's gorgeous. This is actually Mirror Lake. There's very little there, and when I got there was already a group of Japanese tourists there. And they said, "Where's the lake?" And I said, "I don't know, I've never been here." But it was still stunningly beautiful. You'll see as this shot pans up that this is Half Dome right above me. And then I'm going to do a 360-degree pan here, so you'll see Half Dome towards the end of that again. And it was interesting because even though there was this group of tourists when I got there, they all left right as I showed up. So once again, I found myself alone up here and just really enjoying the scenery. It was amazing. So anyway, I hiked back down to the van, and then we took off and drove out of Yosemite. And this was Saturday, and it was a beautiful day, obviously, so there were a lot more tourists today than there had been the previous day. And this is called Tunnel Overlook, and you can see there were a lot of people there. And it was a little slippery getting out over the pass, but pretty soon we were back on dry ground, and we drove all the way down into LA, where we met up with Sarah's cover artist and friend. In LA, and had dinner there before going out to Redlands. And Redlands this time of year is absolutely beautiful, and so we stayed in our friends the Fuller's driveway in the van, and just did a nice day walk and spent some time with them before heading down to pick up Sarah's mom at the airport. This is actually in San Diego, just by the airport. So this is the county courthouse, or administrative building is there. This is a park. And we picked up Sarah's mom and then headed up to the condos that we're staying out in Oceanside, which is just north of Carlsbad. After picking up Sarah's mom, we basically showed up at our place just in time to go out for dinner and walk by some sea lions on the dock. So we had a great trip down, and that's my story. I'm sticking to it. I'll make more video if anything interesting happens while we're here. Take care.